So
Okay.
I'll take that for a request to stop chit chat.
Yes. So 1, 2, go. I am starting. And Kedim, are you ready?
I am, yep.
Let's go. Not this one. Not this one. This is the last
You don't
one.
have time for all of them though. Do you want to play all of them
Nobody's
still?
here yet. We can do the first one.
Okay. All right. Give me a second then. Because I hit the other two because we didn't have time for it, I thought.
Oh, the proclamation.
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We hope that you're having a lovely time. My name is Gloria Gift Nankunda, and today I'm in the company of my Emanzi Trip counterpart, Isaac Kalule. And of course, we're being accompanied by Dadicos on the bass and Mr. O'Neill Dramifula on the drums. Our first song is called Zasetkwa. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoy the rest of our performance. Thank you very much.
Let's hear it for the bass. Drumming.
Is on Come on back, peaceful.
Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
Keratin.
Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on.
Harriet, welcome to the Underground Railroad.
And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone, and I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Shine stars fill the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping
Okay, Kadeem, sir, we're ready to go. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Mentorship Inc.'s Black History Month event, Elevate Greatness. So our theme tonight is, what does it mean to be Black in Canada? Has life changed over time? And how can we bring into being a distinctive future for all? So before we go through some housekeeping and introductions, I would like to introduce Black Mentorship Inc.'s founder and executive director, Evangeline Chima. If you're all on, can I see some of you? Speakers, Oakville Mayor Rob Burton, everybody wave. Dr. Kunita Lila, Associate Curator, Queen's University. Natasha Bowman, Author, President, Performance Renew. Jennifer Hostin, diplomat and businesswoman. Dennis Scott, Chair of Halton Black History Awareness. Did I miss anybody? And our musician and drummer, Baba Williams, and our MC, Taiwa Julius, and my coordinator here, Kadeem McLean, who's helping us run this whole event. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm gonna let Kadeem do the housekeeping, and then I will do the land acknowledgement.
All right, so if you have any questions throughout the event, first of all, before we even go there, as Ingrid was just saying, I wanna welcome everybody. We're here to celebrate our culture, the things we've gone through, where we are today. Still a lot of work to be done, but that's why we're here, to be able to come together to work on whatever still needs to be done, because we know there's a lot of work. And we have a powerful panel of speakers for you this evening to speak about that, right? So happy Black History Month. And again, Black History Month isn't just in this month, right? We ought to celebrate it every day, just by being, right? And taking action towards those things. So you being on here tonight is you taking action, and we appreciate you for being here.
Thank you, Kadeem. So I'm going to read my land acknowledgement. So on this day of Black History Month and beyond, I acknowledge that I am situated on Indigenous lands, and I am grateful to be living and working on this land. Many of us have come to these lands as settlers, immigrants, and newcomers in this generation, generations past, and generations still to come in the future. This island, as we know it today, is rich in the history and the modern traditions of many First Nations, the Métis and the Inuit, from the lands of the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis. These lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we're in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples to honor and respect the four directions: lands, waters, plants, animals, and the ancestors that walked before us and still walk with us today, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory, and we acknowledge the victims of residential schools and the continuing intergenerational impact on their families and their communities that intersect with much of what we face as Black community today. So today we encourage you to reflect on and to learn about the history of the Indigenous peoples and the history of the Black community in Canada. Miigwech. Kadeem, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ingrid. I don't think we could have opened it any better way. So thank you very much for that. So I want to take a moment here to introduce you to our MC for the night. Our MC is actually Taiwo Julius, who is a change management and human resources thought leader with over 15 years leadership experience in human resources and organizational change management. He currently works as a senior change management consultant, and he founded a management consulting company where he advises businesses and individuals on strategic and nimble approaches to managing transitions around people, processes, and technology. Taiwo enjoys cooking, dancing, and playing the drums as well, and traveling, as well as spending his leisure time coaching, counseling, and watching movies. He's happily married and blessed with 2 boys. So without further ado, Taiwo Julius, let's give him a hand and welcome him to the stage.
Thank you so much, Kadim. And it's such a pleasure to be here this evening and share the virtual stage with amazing speakers, including the mayor of Brampton. This is my second time working with a mayor. Maybe there's something in my future that has to do with, being a mayor somewhere in Canada. All right, thank you everyone for joining us for wherever you are joining us from. We appreciate your time. The theme for this particular occasion is elevate greatness. And what does this mean? It means we carry ourselves along. No one is to be left behind. And it's my honor today to introduce the founder and the executive director of Black Mentorship Incorporation, in person of Evangeline Chima. And I'll just read her bio quickly. Evangeline Chima is the founder of Black Mentorship Inc., an organization dedicated to fostering the professional growth and personal expansion of Black professionals through education, mentorship, and skill building. BMI was born out of her personal experiences with systemic racism and bias as a Black professional woman in Canada. Out of these experiences, and with the recognition that Black professionals are underrepresented across industries and in leadership roles, Evangeline created BMI to inspire, support, and mentor Black professionals to fulfill their potential, build community, and also promote change. Evangeline encourages communities and organizations to embed equity and inclusion within their change planning to create a safe and inclusive workplace. Through her work, Chima offers students from diverse communities internship opportunities via the Black Mentorship Inc. platform. Evangeline sits on Learning Disabilities Association of Hamilton Board, the Alton Equity Diversity Roundtable, and the HIEC Partnership Advisory Table, and participates in many strategic planning and program development roundtables, promoting change and building safe, inclusive, and equitable communities. Evangeline has been named one of the Black women to watch and is the 2021 Women of Inspiration Black Leader Award winner. Our dream is to see every Black professional reach their full potential. She is also a devoted wife and a mother of 4 boys. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome our host for this evening, Evangeline Chima, to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Taiwo. My phone rang. The voice at the other end said, Evangeline, I have a job interview and I'm freaking out. The person who called is a Black professional who has been told in many ways in the Canadian workforce that they are not enough. This is the story of millions of Black professionals. It's well known that Black professionals experience significant challenges in striving for success in both their personal and professional lives. Promotional and leadership opportunities are often not accessible to us, making it tough to find strong mentors and role models who look like us. In the words of Maya Angelou, the issue, it's not how to survive. Obviously, we are doing that somehow, but really how to thrive. Really thrive with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Good evening, everyone. We are so honored and delighted that you can join us this evening to acknowledge, celebrate, and perhaps shed 1 or 2 drops of tears as we remember those who made it possible that I, Evangeline Chima, an immigrant in a foreign land, could have the courage to start a movement to elevate Black people. Black Mentorship Inc., BMI, is creating a world where every Black person reaches their full potential, one professional at a time. Our programs offer Black entry-level and mid-career professionals support through mentorship, education, and skills building. We offer our participants the tools, the networking, and strong community to enable them to achieve their own definition of success, whatever that is. So let me take you back to that initial phone call. Actually, let's fast forward to 2021. My phone rang. The same person that called a year ago was on the line. This time to share with us how they were able to negotiate their salary compensation. And it went from 5 digits to 6 figures. Wow. This is the power of mentorship. So when these professionals reach out to us, we offer them a safe space to learn and grow. We provide listening ears and an avenue for them to move from vulnerable states to a place where they'll feel courageous, bold, free of self-doubts. But we're not just building successful professionals. We are seeking to change the perception of Black professionals, both in and out of the workforce. A core deliverable for this objective is engaging with employers and the communities and helping them build frameworks that cultivate inclusive thinking. However, we cannot do this alone. We need your support. Your support will help us continue delivering the resources required to elevate the Black professionals. Elevating them and providing them with the opportunities to be part of a connected and caring community is what we do here at BMI. Ultimately, our mentoring connects Black professionals to social and economic breakthroughs. So today, exactly today, marks 2 years since we took the bold step to support the Black community. In just 2 years, we have supported over 2,000 professionals. Overall number of participants who have registered for our program and or watch our sessions online. We provided direct mentorship support to over 60 people, students, single moms, and professionals. Offered 20+ virtual sessions, fostering self-esteem, confidence, and self-confidence. At the peak of the pandemic, we rolled our sleeves and we provided pandemic relief, supporting our community, providing support to organizations like Halting Children's Aid Society, Acclaim Health, and over 300 individuals in the Halton region. We have generated international interest with viewers across Canada and from the United States, Trinidad and Tobago, Nigeria, Jamaica, Australia, even China, etc. So let me ask you today, please, in the chat, go ahead, let us know where you are joining us from. We also want to use this opportunity to thank all of our sponsors and our partners. St. Jude Anglican Church, Oakville, Tropicana Community Services, Oakville Community Foundation, Halton Regional Police, Jam 3, Sheridan College, and to you, our community that have donated and supported our program and services this past 2 years. Thank you. But we still have work to do to ensure no one is left behind. With your help, we will be offering 40 professionals this year, mentors who can help them see the hope inside themselves. Your continuous support will be used to elevate our participants by providing them with the resources they need, including access to our virtual learning programs and the provision of our unique corporate wellness program, financial management, and transformational leadership workshops. Your assistance ensures we bring in expert facilitators, speakers, coaches, and wellness therapists to help us cater to the needs of the courageous professionals willing and able to propel their careers. So what does it mean to elevate others? It means no one left behind, but it does require teamwork. We hope you will support us to create a positive outlook for the lives of the young people in our community who will, because of our mentorship, have role models who look like them. I'll leave you with this quote from Laverne Cox. When you put love out in the world, it travels and it can touch people and reach people in ways that we never even expected. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I hope you enjoy what we have in stock for you.
Thank you so much, Evangeline. Your passion was so raw, I could almost touch it on my screen. And that is a very lofty vision, you know, helping Black professionals to reach their full potentials, one person at a time. And thank you to all the sponsors who are supporting the Black Mentorship Incorporate Inc. And you guys have been amazing. And I hear you, Evangeline, from BMI to the world, all over the world. Great stuff, great stuff. Now, tonight what we are doing is we are celebrating our rich heritage. We are going to enjoy African music and dance and learn some history. And to take us further in this program tonight, I will be introducing the mayor of Brampton, Mayor
Oakville.
Mayor of Oakville. I beg your pardon. I worked with the mayor of Brampton recently. I beg your pardon. The mayor of Oakville, the greenest mayor in Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to read your biographies very briefly, and then we'll have you do your thing.
You'll embarrass me, please. Let me just be natural here.
Okay, then.
I'm not fussed to be called briefly the mayor of Brampton. The real mayor of Brampton is a friend of mine. In fact, all the mayors of the GTA are friends together. And for all of you, no matter where you're from, I'll be your mayor tonight in the spirit of camaraderie that you're invoking here. I picked up on something that was said early this evening, and that was that, Black History Month may be officially recognized in February, but Black history gets made every month. And I believe that Black history needs to be remembered all the time. And so I tell the founding story of Oakville, which is a Black history story, before every meeting of council, no matter what month it is. And I'd like to share that with you before I do what I was invited here to do, which was to read the official mayor's proclamation for Black History Month. And that I will do on behalf of all mayors, no matter who your mayor is. But here is Oakville's founding story as I tell it at the start, right after O Canada, at the start of every council meeting. 202 years ago, indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, they were helping slaves escape from the United States to settle here too. Today, our indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying this land with us. They fish and camp under their Treaty 22 rights. Indigenous people in their thousands also live with us as neighbors and as friends. Our indigenous, white, and Black founders created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. And in 1857, Ontario gave official recognition to Oakville as a town. And now, at Town Hall 165 years later, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas of the Credit beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. And right now, we're also flying the Black History Month flag. We fly these flags together to acknowledge our origins. People from all over the world are attracted to the livability we have created. We offer newcomers a warm spirit of welcome. We offer everyone our founding story so everyone knows what we are part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance that are suffered across Canada still, sadly, and even sadder here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for all. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite all of us. I hope you'll keep well, stay safe, and let me know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. And please let me know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Thank you very much for letting me tell that story. As you can probably tell, I wrote it myself, and so I have pride of authorship. And now I'll fulfill my duty this evening, and on behalf of all your mayors, I'll read the official proclamation of Black History Month here in Oakville. Whereas throughout its long history, Ontario has been characterized and strengthened by its diverse and distinctive culture. And whereas from the time of its establishment, people of African and Caribbean descent have made significant contributions to the development and betterment of our province. And whereas the Black community continues to play a vital role within the social and cultural mosaic that is Ontario. And whereas Black History Month was first recognized in Ontario in February 1993, marking the 200th anniversary of the passage of legislation prohibiting the importation of slaves into Upper Canada. And whereas Black History Month continues to provide the opportunity to remember and celebrate the contribution that African and Caribbean Canadians have made to Ontario. Therefore, I, Rob Burton, Mayor of the Town of Oakville, hereby proclaim February 2022 as Black History Month in the Town of Oakville. Thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me to participate and bring these few words. I hope you'll consider them to have been few and not to have abused your patience too long. And I wish you every success with your event this evening. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much, sir. Mayor Rob Burton. I hear you loud and clear. I mean, yes, Black history is celebrated in February of every month, February of every year, but Black history is made every single day. Before we go on, I will just read this quote. It says, and this is what I see BMI doing today. Your mind shines brightest when you enlighten others, your heart when you encourage others, your soul when you elevate others, and your life when you empower others. Now, this is what Black BMI is doing now, elevating others, and no wonder they are shining, no wonder. And watch out for BMI. We are going places. I just joined right now. So we are going places. And to take us further into the next item on the agenda is a keynote speaker. And I have the honor of, introducing Natasha Bowman, not just because she's a keynote speaker, but I started my career as an HR professional, and I'm happy to be meeting Natasha, today. Natasha is recognized as a top 30 global guru for management. She's a TEDx speaker and author. Natasha Bowman, JD, SPHR, has labored to transform the American workplace from the inside out for nearly 20 years. As a champion of employees, she's worked with a broad range of organizations as a C-suite HR executive to create an engaging environment where employees are respected, genuine leaders are cultivated, and top performance is achieved. Natasha is an award-winning modern-day pioneer of workplace equality, inspiring organizations to not just pay lip service to workplace rights, but craft highly engaged cultures where every employee is truly dignified and valued for their contribution. Because of her ability to diagnose workplace issues and provide proven solutions to organizations, she is often referred to as the workplace doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome to our virtual stage for tonight, Natasha Bowman.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I don't think I've ever been introduced with such hype. Thank you so much, Tao. And it's a pleasure to be sitting side by side with a fellow HR professional. I also want to thank Evangeline for having me. We met on social media, on LinkedIn. She reached out to me, and there was something about her spirit that I felt through these virtual walls that I felt tonight. So I just want to let you know I am here to support you in your efforts, learning so much about BMI and what you're doing and how our work is aligned. I'm located in New York City. You're, right above me. So, we've just got a border or so to cross, but I'm always here to support you in your efforts because what we do is closely aligned. We want to make sure that employees can come to work every day, especially our Black employees, and feel seen, heard, valued, and respected, and that they have the opportunity to not just survive, but to thrive in the workplace and to elevate greatness, which is what the theme of this conference is. And we can only do that if we support and lift up each other. So very briefly, I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about where I've been over the past year, because in America, the theme for this Black History Month, and the United States, the theme for the Black History Month is promoting wellness amongst Black Americans and supporting mental health. And last year, this time, I was involuntarily committed to a mental health facility. Now, you're probably wondering, how did that happen? You are a successful lawyer, author, you run a successful business, you have a wonderful husband, you have 2 great kids. How did you get to that place? Well, I got to that place after an unsuccessful suicide attempt. You see, when COVID happened in March of 2020, I was what I thought on top of the world. I was busting all of my goals, right? I had been that TEDx speaker, I had that business. In fact, I had a ticket to Indonesia to pick up that reward of being recognized as a top 30 global guru. I thought nothing could stop me. I had fought my way up to the top, to the corporate ladder and sat in the C-suite and had experienced those inequities that Evangeline talked about. I had been, a victim of racism, but I fought through that. I made sure that I was going to elevate to greatness. I watched my husband about 10 years ago slip into a depression as a Black male teacher in a classroom. He was the only male teacher at his school and experienced a high level of racism. After that experience, he hasn't stepped foot in a classroom because that really impacted his mental health so much. I never saw myself going to that place. In fact, I have to be honest that I didn't understand how he got into such a deep depression after experiencing racism. But you know what? He came out of the classroom and he helped me to start my business. And again, in March of 2020, we thought nothing could stop us until this global pandemic that literally stopped the world. I watched all of my events be canceled. I watched my clients cancel me as they returned, as they went remote and their cut budgets and had layoffs. And I thought that was the end of my professional career. I didn't know where this pandemic was going. In fact, because I had invested so much of my value in my professional life, without my professional life, I thought I was of no value. And even though after May of 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, my business started to pick up as organizations finally wanted to recognize and rectify the historic racism that had been happening. And they began to knock on my door and send me emails, come back, let's have conversations about race. And I found myself going into big organizations such as Forbes and Hearst magazines, but yet I found myself mentally still going down this very, very dark hole. And I couldn't figure out why. If my professional self was already up there, was going back up there, why did I feel so disconnected from the world? I was too ashamed to relay this message to even my husband or my kids of this state that I was in, because there's so much stigma around mental health. And there had been so much stigma in my family. In fact, in living with my Black family growing up, they would say things like, oh, what do you have to be depressed about? You have so many things to be fortunate. I would hear them tell others. So I thought, how dare I share these feelings? I have so much to be blessed with. I've been privileged with so many things. What's going on with me? And then in February of 2021, one night, I decided I no longer wanted to be here. And that night, I took 2 bottles of pills, drank a bottle of champagne, and closed my eyes for what I thought would be the very last time. When I woke up very blurry to someone taking the string out of my pajama pants, strangers taking the shoelaces out of my shoes. I was escorted to a room, laid on a mattress on the floor, while a stranger, watched me sleep for the next 2 days. As the days went by, I came to realize what was happening, what had happened, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder while I was in that institution. It took me a while to really accept that diagnosis. How could someone, again, as successful as me, suffer from a mental illness? But more importantly, I kept thinking, what will my family say? What will my clients say? What would the world think of me if they found this out? As the months went by and I went to therapy and got the right medication, I started to feel better. But I realized one thing. You see, I have a large social media following. I have about 80,000 followers worldwide. And I have always used that platform and that privilege to be vulnerable about many things in my life, my experiences in the workplace, my experiences at home, and to create that platform and use that platform for the greater good. And in a moment, I had to think about, would I use this platform to share my story about mental illness? Because I know there are so many other people that look like me, and especially because of working in toxic work environments, they may have been thinking the thoughts that I was thinking that night. I wanted to kill myself and attempted to do so. So one day I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning and I told my husband, I have to share my story. I was given this platform for a reason and I have to use it. I have a feeling that people need to hear it. So I woke up that day, I posted a professional picture and I captioned that picture, "This is the face of bipolar disorder," and I shared my story. The next thing I knew, that story had been viewed millions of times worldwide. 25,000 people commented on it. 5,000 people sent me direct messages with their stories of struggle, thanking me for sharing my story. Some even told me that in that moment, they were considering taking their own life. But because they read my story and saw that I was thriving through my mental illness, I inspired them not to do so and to do the same.
in that moment, that day, and I read every single message that came through to me, and I responded to every single message because that gave me the opportunity to do what I had been advising organizational leaders to do for decades, which is to make sure everybody that you know is being seen, heard, and valued. And I responded to every single message so that they knew they were seen, they were heard, and that they were valued. And if they took the time to write me a message, I was going to write them back. It took me several days to do so, but since then, I have continued to interact with people, share more and more of my story, and work with organizational leaders to create inclusive workplaces, not just for Black Americans, females, LGBTQIA, but for those of us that are suffering. There's a huge intersectionality between being Black and mental illness and the stresses that the workplace puts upon us. So I see it as my mission to continue to remove those barriers and challenges and toxic work environments so that we can thrive, so that we can elevate to greatness, because greatness is where we already are. If you think about it, we just need for the rest of the world to view us in the greatness in which we walk. I will never stop on that mission, fighting for you, fighting for your children, fighting for your grandchildren, just like my grandparents did in the segregated South during the Civil Rights Movement, just like my mother and father did. They elevated me to greatness, and I have an obligation to do so for generations to come. Evangeline, that's why your work is so, so important. And I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the fact that people can call you and say, I need help in the workplace. And I hope to continue to partner with you on that journey. So when I think about elevating to greatness, and I think about Maya Angelou, when you talked about her earlier, every day when I wake up, some days are good, some days are bad, but I always wake up and say, I can make it through today. So therefore, I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God.
Amazing. Like I was taking notes like it was an exam, and geez, this is so loaded. Thank you so much, Natasha, for sharing your story with us this evening. It takes, a lot of strength admitting and coming out and, talking to people. That really, really does mean a lot. We have a few of our board members in-house. I'd just like to feel their pulse and, let them tell us how they're feeling this evening. I'd like to take Abe Salami is in the house. He's one of the board members who make things happen behind the scene at BMI. So Abe, please, how are you feeling this evening with that incredible story that Natasha just shared?
Inspirational, is amazing. And we need people like Natasha in our midst. And she wakes people up and let people have hope. And that is exactly what we are on for at BMI. Inspire another person, make their life worthwhile. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much. I'm very inspired, and I know thousands of people will be. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, Abe. I mean, you were just spot on, very spot on. I have another quote here that says, leadership is not always about your power. It's all about your ability to empower, encourage, and elevate others. And that's why, Natasha, expect me, I'm joining your followers tonight. And Natasha is in high demand. She has to jet out pretty soon. So if you have questions for Natasha, please put your questions in the chat. Our team will dig your questions out. Hopefully she can attend to some of them before she leaves. She is in high demand, and your guess is as good as mine. She just delivered. Thank you once again, Natasha. Do we want to take a few questions for Natasha before she leaves? Otherwise,
yes,
okay.
I have about 5 or so minutes.
Okay, awesome. Is Natasha's keynote speech written? Can we get a copy of it?
No, it's not written. Sorry, I just talk. That's what I do for a living. So I just start talking, but I do think this is being recorded. So you're welcome to share with the participants here tonight, or as much as you want.
Yeah, Thank you for that. So Uzoaku, this meeting is being recorded, and then we'll collate some more questions and probably put on our blog. I'm saying our blog because I'm now part of BMI, okay? On our blog, which you can go to, later. So please, okay, there's another question for you. So Natasha, I appreciate that you bring that intersectional lens to discussion of the experience of Black. Oh, that was just a comment. Okay, a question. Hi, Natasha. What advice would you give to people who are struggling at the moment in work or life? This is a real question from a real person.
That is, don't suffer in silence. Find your support system. Mine was in my husband, who supported me through my diagnosis, through my hospital stay. And after discharge, he makes sure he takes care of me. And when he sees me working like I have the past few days, I got to go run a flight tonight. He's going to make sure when I get back tomorrow from DC that I go to bed, I rest, right? And make sure that my mental wellness, and he does everything that he can so to make sure I don't have to worry about unnecessary things. And so I would just share how you're feeling. Don't suffer in silence. Get the support that you need, right? Because that's ultimately what sent me down that dark hole, was suffering in silence. And I realized the more that I talk about it, actually the better that I feel. And it also helps to know a lot of times when you share, people will tell you that they suffer too, or they know someone, right? And you find that you're a part of this community that's been suffering in silence, and therefore you have people to lean on when you need them the most.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, that's important. Don't suffer in silence. Get a support structure around yourself to help you. So another quick question, what helped you the most, Natasha?
The support system, and really following my treatment plan. A lot of times we feel better and we think, oh, we don't need that I don't need that medication because I feel better, or I don't need to go to therapy because I feel better. But just really following my treatment plan, staying the course, and understanding how important it is to follow your treatment plan and to have that support.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's another one. It's difficult to acknowledge the mental health struggle, particularly for someone coming from marginalized background, traditional family. There is a fear of not getting an opportunity, or seen as weak or irresponsible. What do you advise?
Yeah, I felt that same way too. Like, I don't need another X by my name. I'm a Black woman. I'm older. I'm over 40, right? I was like, and now I got a mental health issue. So I really thought in my head that that would be my demise, but it really hasn't, and that's why I'm sharing my story, so that I can pave the way for you, right? So that I can show corporate America that although we may struggle with our mental health, we are still able to achieve our goals, to meet expectations, exceed expectations. So hopefully I can remove that stigma and more people can be vocal. So that's part of my mission and my journey. Am I there yet? Probably not, but I won't stop until I get there.
Amazing. I'll just take 2 more questions, and then we'll collate all the other questions, answer them on our blog. So I'll take the 2 questions together so you can answer them together, just for the sake of our time. How do we elevate young Black teens who are suffering from mental health issues, considering that the culture impacts their ability to be realistic about their challenges and ask for help? The next one is quick, like similar to that. What advice would you give to Black people who do not have a voice, even when represented in leadership?
Yeah, so that first one, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she watched me suffer, and I really worried about her mental health watching me go through what I went through. And it's about having an open conversation. How are you feeling? Being able to tell me anything that's on her mind. I did not grow up like that. I grew up with my parents, especially my mother, where it was always the perception of perfection. And we really weren't allowed to, have blemishes or not be at the top, and had these unrealistic expectations that I really brought with me into adulthood, and worked myself, through burnout many, many times. In fact, after I, got out of the hospital, my mother hasn't spoken to me since. And we used to talk every day. So that stigma is still there. So what I am committed to doing is to make sure that my daughter knows that she has a parent that she can go to, have an open and honest conversation about, whatever is going on, that I am helping her to set her goals and her boundaries. Because like me, she will definitely overwork, try to meet these unrealistic expectations. And I have to slow her down and say, baby, take a break. Your best is your best. And sometimes your best isn't perfection. The only thing I ask is that you achieve your best for today. And sometimes your best may be you can't get out of bed, and that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. So I give her permission to rest, to be herself, to be unapologetically herself, to be authentic, and remind her of her beauty, her brilliance, and her genius, and what's in her blood. And so, we talk every night about our days, both of us, and I'm vulnerable to her so that she can be vulnerable to me.
Amazing.
I'm sorry, I'll answer the leadership question. A lot of times you may still feel like you don't have a voice, even when there's people represented in leadership that looks like you. And oftentimes, and I've been in that C-suite chair, a lot of times it's because that person in leadership that looks like you doesn't have a voice either. Organizations are very performative sometimes when they put people that look like us in leadership positions. And we are just there just for it to be a token to say, hey, I've got a Black person or a woman in this position, but they have no intent whatsoever to give us a voice, to give us autonomy or decision-making authority, right? So that's what we're working on. I know Evangeline is working on it. I am working on it. And I call organizations out about performative allyship, performative support of the Black community. And I have people that reach out to me and tell me, hey, I'm the victim of this. And I reach out to those organizations, hey, let me come and do a cultures check. I think you have an issue there. And I think the more that we have those conversations, we call them out on all of this performative allyship that they're engaging in, we can finally have a voice in the workplace. And the good news is that we have allyship within consumers, our clients. So the world is watching these organizations and their culture, and they're not supporting organizations who are engaging in this behavior anymore. So now that they have some economic, risk to creating these toxic cultures, I think we'll start to see better cultures being cultivated.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I mean, this has really been awesome, real conversations, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
all right.
With you guys on LinkedIn. I talk about this all day, every day, so engage with me there. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Wow. Okay, to take us further into the program for tonight, we have another speaker, Dr. Juanita Lila, who is an associate curator, Arts of Africa at Agnes Etherington Art Center, Queen's University, Kingston, situated on Anishinaabe and Odisuna Sea, forgive me, territory. At Agnes, she cares for the Justin and Elizabeth Lang collection of African art, one of the largest collections of its kind in Canada. She has a PhD in visual arts from Stellenbosch University in South Africa, and in 2018. Juanita is interested in radical potential of museums, representations of racialized minorities, the life and afterlife of objects in collections, and depictions of traumatic histories. She is the curator of With Open Mouths and a host of a podcast of the same name. Please make welcome to our virtual stage, Dr. Juanita Lila.
Thank you, Taiwo. It is such an honor to be here. Evangeline, you put me off to Natasha's incredible speech. It brought tears to my eyes. I am a museum professional. I graduated with a PhD in South Africa. There is just so much that I feel that I have to overcome in a Canadian context. And I really just appreciated Natasha's courage, and she's just such an inspiration. It's amazing, and it's amazing what this community is doing, and I think that BMI is really at the forefront of this, so that's fantastic. I'm going to change things up a bit and actually speak a bit more about my background in museums and an exhibition that deals with these kinds of issues. So I'm going to share my screen. Can the host enable screen sharing? Please. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Senzenina is a South African anti-apartheid hymn and lament, often sung at funerals of murdered activists. Senzenina, what have we done to deserve this? Our only sin is the color of our skin. The voices rise, inconsolable, refusing to be silent. In the Western Art Museum, the mask is the face of Africa, but it is a face without a name or a body, suspended in a white field of absence. Like the empty spaces on colonial maps, that emptiness means erasure, not absence. The dancers who wore the masks, the smells, words, music, and colors of the masquerade are missing. With Open Mouths is a curatorial intervention that seeks to start new conversations about African objects in Western art museums. We include ceremonial masks from the Justin and Elizabeth Lang collection with contemporary work by Nigerian-Canadian artist Olusegun to begin to speak of what we've lost. The masks stand vigil in the grey Kingston soil of their exile, while the African Atlantic breaks on the rocks of home. How should we speak of these things? Can they begin to speak for themselves? The soil of With Open Mouths recalls the outdoor masquerade, as well as the epistemic fertility and possibilities of the mask's new home. This is the soil of Kingston, the first capital of the colonial province of Canada. If each mask carried African soil on its transatlantic journey as a talisman of remembering and of belonging, this display would look very different. The Atlantic Ocean is the canvas of With Opened Mouths. It carried the masks to this continent from their places of origin, and it is their last memory of home. As they gaze out over the horizon, the familiar sounds and smells of the ocean might provide some comfort. Artist Olusegun also makes history personal by imagining the talisman an enslaved individual might have carried from home. Spotlit darkness and crashing waves evoke a cargo hold or seaside dungeon. Totemic objects crystallize exile, flotsam on a distant beach, melded dream souvenirs from a lost future. Washed up on the shore of the Atlantic lays Oluse's Eminado series. Collections of traditional art from Africa are not collections of art in the Western sense. Objects from Africa followed in the wake of earlier transatlantic trade. The African women and men who were sold as chattel, and who became part of a thriving commercial European culture. These talismanic objects, or lucky charms, are from Oluse's ongoing Eminado series. Eminado is Yoruba for good luck charm, and this work memorializes the millions of people transported as chattel across the Atlantic. It was triggered by the history of Friendship, a Canadian-built slave ship that carried enslaved Africans from New Calabar in present-day Nigeria to Montego Bay, Jamaica in 1793. The constant migration of Black people through time, as slaves in the past and as immigrants more recently, is an enduring theme in Oluse's work. He looks at the ways in which Blackness moves across space, place, and time, shaping and shifting in the world.
So, like I mentioned before, I'm a South African curator, writer, and scholar currently residing in Kingston, Ontario. I started working remotely with the African collection of African masks from Cape Town in 2020. Now, historically, collections of European and Western art have been given greater value than collections of traditional art from Africa. This exhibition thinks through the ways displaced collections of objects can be disentangled from replicating the power dynamics of their imperial past. But it also gave me an opportunity to think of the similarities between the colonial histories of Cape Town and of Kingston. Both Cape Town and Kingston date their first colonial encounters to the 1600s. They are cities on the water, Kingston on Lake Ontario at the mouth of the Cataraqui and St. Lawrence rivers. Cape Town is situated on the Atlantic Ocean. As port cities with strong colonial legacies, they have been both administrative capitals, and both cities are also home to the oldest universities. But as port cities, both Kingston and Cape Town have strong ties with the underbelly of settler occupation, with violent extraction and the displacement of people with a colonial project of border making. Kingston, like Cape Town, has a history of slavery as well as of indigenous genocide. Soon after I arrived in Kingston, Canada's forgotten histories were in the news, with the location of hundreds of unmarked graves of Indigenous children around the country, most notably in Saskatchewan and British Columbia. So all these issues made me think about what my role at the Agnes is as Associate Curator, Arts of Africa. And I've made it my mission to try and convey suppressed, forgotten, and distorted Black histories through the collection of African art. This context is also helping me to think about how colonial collections can be activated to tell stories that have been ignored and overlooked. Can storytelling happen through traditional African collections? Can it be grounded in the present while rejecting harmful stereotypes of Africa and its usually diverse people? My journey with the African collection started in June 2020. It was the height of the epidemic in South Africa, and we were under hard lockdown. Many South Africans were suffering from the effects of isolation, but also the hard reality of economic deprivation. I had recently made contact with the folks at the Agnes, and I remember being very troubled by their African collection. The very positioning of an African collection in a Western art museum, made up of so-called historical objects, is deeply problematic. There are many ways that There are many things that we do not know about this collection. For example, who sold these pieces and under what circumstances were they taken from their communities? What do we know? All we know is that they found themselves in Canada in a Canadian market. So while thinking of these two important events happened that shaped the exhibition, British Nigerian artist Zina Sarawiwa gave a performance lecture online called Warring the Mask. Zina is the daughter of Ken Sarawiwa, Nigerian writer and activist who was killed by the regime of General Sani Abacha. In her lecture, Sarawiwa navigates the moral and cultural dilemmas that arise from the category of African art. The next thing that happened around July 2020, when an Angolan dance troupe, Vinemenos December, created the Jerusalema Dance YouTube Challenge. Jerusalema went viral during the pandemic, and by November 2020, it had 230 million views on YouTube. Almost overnight, everyone from healthcare workers in Africa to priests in Europe were posting their own Jerusalema dance videos and repeating the choreography. What is special about Jerusalema is that it portrays Africans as part of the present world and of contributing to the world, an expression of hope, joy, and upliftment. The popularity of Jerusalema also made me remember how vital collective movement is in Africa. It speaks of community, continuity, resistance, and of being alive. In a collection of African masks in an art museum, there's an absence of community and also of a collective physicality of a masquerade. Displaced in a new country, grounded in Kingston, the African mask's meanings have morphed into something different and misunderstood. I see the mask as the face of African art. As living beings, they are reference of potent signs and point to unseen cosmologies and to extraordinary worlds. Included in the show, as you saw in the video, is Eminado. Eminado is by one of my favorite contemporary Canadian artists, Nigerian Canadian artist, Olusegun, who reimagines the talismanic objects that Africans past and present carried across the Atlantic for protection and for comfort. By making remnants out of the discarded parts of life, Olusegun attempts to resurrect unacknowledged people and history. The constant migration, both voluntary and involuntary, of Black people through time, space, and place is an enduring theme in his work. To promote the human voice, especially the Black voice, a podcast has been launched. In With Open Mouths, the podcast, I sit down with artists, musicians, curators, and spoken word poets to discuss the expression of their practice. How did they find their artistic voice? Which life events shaped them, and who were their inspirations? Toronto-based musician Jamil 3DN was commissioned to write the music called The Art of Black for the podcast. Jamil considers himself a griot. Traditionally from West Africa, these figures are storytellers, praise singers, poets, and musicians. The griot is a repository for oral tradition in the community and is often seen as leaders due to their positions as advisors. Jamil's Art of Black explores themes of Black history and agency, of acknowledging a painful history, but of rising above and of retaining what is good in the present. So in conclusion, I'll end with Jamil's song, The Art of Black. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll take questions afterwards. Thank you.
Protect the fold, protect the fold, protect the fold. As we fight to be heard, Black bodies in the earth, creators of culture, disconnected from birth. Yeah, so we let them sell us worth. Sold us fables and it worked. So we masking pain cause it hurts. Yeah, black pain being hanged like some merch. They tell our story, but let us tell you first. We were stolen, put on display, taught a new language, distorted our face, what a shame. We were shining, they wanted us in shade. They thought we would stay slaves. One chapter, but this novel has many. You know first people really look like pennies. This brown skin, this is what they envy. And the culture, that's within me. Know your worth, sister, protect the soul. Know your worth, brother, protect the fold. Know your worth, sister, protect the fold. Know your worth, brother, protect the soul. I tell you, I was thinking what it would feel like to be outside this flesh. For my spirit to be flying high in the sky, above the clouds, at the doorsteps of heaven. Freedom, yeah.
Oops.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kanita.
Thank you.
This was a very beautiful presentation. Now I need to get Jerusalem out of my head. It's been
Yeah.
going
I
round
know
and
it was
round and round.
difficult. It was difficult to choose like which songs to play because Africa is so full of music and it's so full of life and energy and movement, you know, and like traditional collections are just so dead and, you know, boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And on that note, I will be bringing to our virtual stage our very own Baba Williams. He really needs no introduction. Baba is a man of many parts. He's an award-winning motivational speaker, singer, percussionist, recording artist. He's a writer. He's a great African historian and storyteller. He has featured on TED Talk, and he has had the privilege and the honor of playing for Nelson Mandela when he visited Unilag in 1990. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Baba Williams.
The song says, Ọmọ awo la wá, awo ló yẹ kó mọ̀ yọgbẹ̀rì, awo ló mọ̀ díẹ̀ gbígbà fàlàwò ṣe, awo làwo màmá o. Nílé ayé wa o, kárí bá ti ṣe, báwo mọ̀ ẹ báyé wò jẹ́ kárí rè jẹ́. Ló mọ̀ díẹ̀ kí bá fàlàwò ṣe, aláwo jẹ́ bàbá. Ọmọ awo la wá, awo ló yẹ kó yọgbẹ̀rì, awo ló mọ̀ díẹ̀ kí bá fàlàwò ṣe.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Baba.
Thank you.
I know we don't want Baba to go yet. Baba has another session. For those of you that will stay till the end, Baba is going to thrill us to some more percussion music, and I mean, just stay tight, stay tight. All right. Now, this is really interesting. I'm happy to be bringing the next speaker right up. And this is no other person by our very own Jennifer Austin. She is a native of Grenada and trained with the BBC and worked as a broadcaster and airline hostess before winning the 1970 Miss World competition. Oh yes, we have a Miss World in our midst. There is nothing like former Miss World. Once a Miss World, always a Miss World. All right. She was the High Commissioner for Grenada in the midst of its revolution and subsequently enjoyed a career as a Canadian diplomat and trade specialist. She also founded and ran a successful inn in Grenada. Jennifer is a mother of two and she lives in Oakville, very close to the mayor of Oakville. And she will be talking to us tonight on defining yourself. Please make welcome Jennifer Austin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say hello and I want to thank Evangeline for the honor of being here tonight to help highlight the important work of Black Mentorship, Inc. and also, of course, to celebrate Black History Month. So it is really an honor to be here and to talk with you, just share with you a little bit of my thoughts on some of the things that just might be of interest to young people in particular. Are you someone who gives up after failure or is afraid to take risks because of fear of failure? Are you someone who is more influenced about what people think and say about you? Or are you able to take stock and assess the reasons for your failure and make a plan for another path to success? Some of the most successful people in history had to overcome severe obstacles before becoming successful. Let's look at some of the strategies used by these people. Having the intention to succeed by self-improvement, choosing to learn from past mistakes, choosing a mentor or someone you admire to help guide you. You could go even further and see yourself in the position that you'd like to be in. Imagine yourself and what it would take to get there. What are your natural assets or strengths? I'd like to point to the path taken by one highly successful person, the recently deceased renowned actor, Sidney Poitier, the first Black man to win an Academy Award. Sidney Poitier, or Sir Sidney Poitier, had more against him than one could imagine in America in 1960. He was a Black immigrant from the Bahamas. He had a strong Bahamian accent. He was poor. He washed dishes in restaurants to support himself and his family. And he had difficulty reading. He had chosen an industry, acting, and a country, the United States, that openly practiced racial discrimination. His approach to all this was to improve himself. He chose to work on his deficiencies. He learned to read with the help of a mentor, an old Jewish man who offered to help him learn to read film scripts. His attitude was right. He was willing to learn from others. But most importantly, he respected himself and refused to accept roles that would be demeaning to other Black people. Instead, he saw himself as a role model, someone that might be a useful guide for others. He used his celebrity to fight against racial discrimination and to promote human rights in the United States. In this way, he defined the roles that he chose and didn't let Hollywood push him around. When I won the Miss World contest in 1970, I was the first obvious woman of color to win. But that was the first time that I had won a pageant. I had previously taken part in a carnival contest and a Miss Caribbean contest, and in each case, I did not win. But I learned a few lessons from those failures that I used to my advantage in competing for Miss World. One important lesson was that preparation is a key component of success. That has been true for me for my entire career. Whether or not I was a Miss World, an ambassador, a civil servant, an academic, an author, or a psychotherapist, planning has always been a key part of any success that I have had. So what is success? In a changing world, even the perception of success changes over time. My winning Miss World 50 years ago represented a change. I was not the typical blue-eyed blonde woman that many expected to win, but the idea of beauty is highly subjective. A big issue in 1970 was whether beauty contests served to objectify women. I decided to use my win or celebrity to be a good role model for other women, especially women of color. I also made a conscious decision that I would not be defined as just a former Miss World. I would consciously redefine myself. Redefining oneself becomes easier once we realize that the only thing that is constant in life is change. Things change, life changes, we change. So why not embrace the concept of change and plan to redefine yourself? I took advantage of educational opportunities to advance myself and to give me other career options. This meant taking risks and taking advantage of opportunities to stretch myself. And when in doubt, I turned to my faith for hope and courage. I was 60 years old when I went back to school to study to be a psychotherapist. Looking back on my own experience, I have learned that what you think of yourself is much more important than what others think of you. It is in your power to shape your destiny. Positive thoughts influence actions, and you can redefine yourself after failures. My mentors were my mother and my master's professor. Both believed that I could achieve anything I put my mind and worked towards, and I believed them. As we celebrate Black History Month in Canada, we can take courage from others that went before to help pave the way. This requires us to be brave and courageous. Be willing to let go of preconceptions, ideas, and expectations. Be willing to accept and move with change. Give up old ideas and embrace new ones and opportunities. The best advice I can give to anyone, and that includes my children, is don't be afraid of making changes in your life and in your career. You know it's going to happen, so plan for it and be brave. Thank you.
Amazing stuff. That was really amazing. I took notes. I wrote so many things. But again, I think the one that touched me the most was when you said you went back to school at age 60. Wow, that is amazing. And that is you not, being afraid to redefine yourself, just like you rightly said. So this is you practicing what you're preaching. It's not just lip service. Thank you so very much, Jennifer. Let me call on one of the board members again, Taiwo, to, just drill down on what Jennifer said. We'll take questions at the end. So guys, keep your questions coming in the Q&A session. So Taiwo, oh, my namesake, Taiwo, how are you? She's one of the board members of BMI. Male Taiwo, she's the female Taiwo. Tell us, how are you feeling with that powerful delivery that Jennifer just gave us?
I think it was just very powerful. I could feel the authenticity in it, and I mean I'm really glad that you shared your journey. You know, dating back to the 1970s up till now, you're still as beautiful as ever, Jennifer. I do believe that you're making changes, and we're actually in the same town, so I'm hoping I can see you someday and just tap in from your beauty. But thank you for the positive words that you had. And I think one thing I took about that is that preparation is really key. It's an important element in what we do. And thank you for sharing that, and the work you do in the community itself. It just speaks to the true self that you are. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
I look forward to meeting you sometime.
Yes, like, I mean, Oakville, I'll just say hello and, you know, tap into some beauty and maybe just get some key. Hopefully, maybe I can join a pageant without my glasses. Feel good.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Thank you so much, Taiwo. Thank you, Jennifer. And we are going to the last speaker for tonight. Wow, how time flies. Now, this is one person I met recently, and in a few seconds, he made a huge impression on me. And that is no other person than Dennis Scott. Dennis is a 6th generation Black Canadian freedom seeker descendant with diversified heritage, including American, Jamaican, British, French, Costa Rican, African, and indigenous. Only one man. Cultural integrator focused on implementing Black history and cultural dynamics into the Ontario education system. Former chair, Owen Sound Emancipation Festival from 2001 to 2011, the oldest continuous running event in Grey and Bruce counties, and the longest continuous running emancipation celebration in North America. Dennis is currently chair of the Alton Black History Awareness Society and former CEO of Habitat for Humanity Grey Bruce. He has been acknowledged for conceptualizing and chairing an Emancipation Grey County Black History and Educational Conference, as well as many other initiatives, you know, promoting Black heritage in Canada. Dennis and family currently reside in Burlington in Ontario. Please make welcome Dennis Scott.
Well, thank you, Taiwo. Good presentation, and I appreciate it. And Evangeline, thank you for allowing me to be on this exciting and very needed journey. I'm going to start off with a quote from Marlene Charles de Montesquieu. To be truly great, one has to stand with people, not above them. It is a pleasure to speak with you tonight on those who elevated me to educate those who inspire to be the best that they can be. And passing it forward is our obligation to progress our circle of life. The Halton Black History Committee members and board are conduits of communication dedicated to inform, educate, recognize, and celebrate those individuals and groups who made our Black livelihood today possible. We're proud to have initiated the flag-raising ceremony, recognizing Burlington as the first city in the world to acclaim August as Emancipation Month. Welcome to our celebration. My greatest mentor was my grandfather, who, although he only had grade 9 education, was one of the most intelligent people I have met, who used to bring voluminous books from the States when he was a Great Lakes sailor, which is especially relevant in that he grew up at a time when Blacks were not allowed to read or write. My grandfather turned a brewery into a home that housed 8 children and 2 grandchildren, 3 of which became presidents of their high school council. The elder was a matriarch who looked after her 7 siblings, me and my sister Wendy. One sibling was offered a baseball career until his accident. Another was the first accountant with honest eds. Another was playing with 7 jazz orchestras and bands on his passing. Another was head girl of her high school and recognized as the best elementary teacher in Guelph at her passing. Another became the first Black nursing graduate in Canada. And my sister became VP of Diversity at TD Canada. My grandfather could tell you the names of almost all the plants in Canada by their Latin names and was a prolific green thumber. It is said that neighbors saw his father taking freedom seekers out of barrels and that his grandmother shot a man on her way to freedom from Kentucky. He would cheerlead me at every home and champion basketball, track, and football game I played in, and had the hardest slap shot that any young man would want to experience. His great-grandfather was John Daddy Hall, Owen Sound's first town crier, who was given squatting rights by Queen Victoria until his death and after the city had taken over and what is now called Victoria Park. There was a plaque in front of Owen Sound City Hall in his honor, and it was recently acknowledged that here is where our Mohawk blood came from. This plaque also represented a turning point in Owen Sound, recognizing its Black history, the population being 10% back at the turn of the 18th century. And I was probably related to all of them. My grandfather introduced me to Lonnie Johnson in our kitchen, the pioneering jazz guitarist who played with Duke Ellington and Count Basie, whose performance we caught that night at the Chatsworth Hotel. My grandfather rescued me from going into an orphanage by retiring early when I was 5. He also kept me from my father, who was the first director of St. Albans Boys and Girls Club in Toronto, which shows no one is perfect. My father in the 50s and 60s used to paint all the signs at the C&E. My grandfather's biggest accomplishment, however, was marrying my grandmother, who was equal in mentorship to Mort and retired from the boats with him. My grandmother, whose father was Matthew Green's great-grandfather's brother, was sister to Susan Ann Woods Earls, the first deaconess in the British Methodist Episcopal Church history, and the second woman in Canada after her friend, Reverend Elstock, to be a fully ordained minister. Master, for those who are not aware, is now an MP, and it is also the first Black on the City of Hamilton's council. My grandmother Jane is also the mother of Maurice Scott, recognized as being the first Black nursing graduate in Canada, who, according to newspapers, was refused nursing school admittance because her patients feared death. It is stated that my grandmother's grandfather found his way to Canada in a perforated coffin and danced and sang his way up to glory land. The most beautiful thing about these many mentors is that we only had one argumentative discussion in all of my life with them. Communication was positive, progressive, educational, supportive, and encouraging. I know you have in your life potential mentors who can stimulate your love of life like mine. I was not aware of this history until I was asked to take over a family emancipation picnic in Owen Sound that was dwindling, which made me aware that I was never taught my Black and family history, much I'm sure like a lot of you. Upon researching the area, I found that I come from a community which was named after one of the first documented abolitionists, Captain Fitzgerald Owen, who would go into the jungles of South Africa to dissuade tribes from capturing other tribe members for enslavement. A community where bounty hunters came to seize Blacks in concert with the Fugitive Slave Act. An area where the Black community's tombstones were buried under potato fields, in people's homes, and on baseball diamonds. Plus, census changes were made from Black to Scottish and Irish, and trying to hide that Blacks lived once in this community. A community which didn't allow Blacks to live within the community until the 1970s, or to sleep overnight. A community where Blacks were denied entry into a grocery store in the 1990s until escorted by a white woman. A community close to where a minister lived who welcomed Blacks to Canada and left to teach Blacks reading and writing in the United States, who became the only white person lynched by the Ku Klux Klan. A community where my grandmother's sister in her 80s petitioned and won keeping the old Negro Creek Road from being converted to an Irish or Scottish name. The festival grew 1,800% in 5 years, partially due to converting the motto, "The struggle continues," to celebrating emancipation, celebrating, and inviting all cultures to come and join in due to the fact that it was multi-cultures and groups, such as the Quakers and our Indigenous cousins, who helped Black freedom seekers run to Canada. It was through this venue that we were able to award Lincoln Alexander a Community Appreciation Plaque. Lincoln QC and Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, our first Black Canadian Member of Parliament, cut the ribbon at a revitalized cemetery. My friend Les McKinnon and associates resurrected from under those mentioned potato fields and people's homes. Lincoln, along with the likes of Fergie Jenkins, were frequent guests in our home. The festival brought in and awarded Lawrence Hill in his early days as Canada's now most prolific writer in Canadian Black history and a 2021 Order of Canada recipient. Larry phoned me up one time and told me he could not attend the festival one year because he was meeting with the Queen. Excuse me. He was later awarded the Commonwealth Award for his famous book, Book of Negroes. He is also Dan Hill Jr.'s brother, who wrote for Celine Dion when she was 17, and numerous others, and wrote the infamous Sometimes When We Touch. It's a small world. My Scottish friend, Les McKinnon, was a Ryerson journalism student editor on Larry's father's, Dan Hill's pioneering book on Canadian Black history, The Freedom Seekers. Dan Hill came to Canada because mixed marriages weren't allowed in Ohio. He went on to be a co-founder with his wife, Donna, of the Ontario Black History Society, and was the initiator of our Human Rights Commission. Received the Order of Canada in 2000, and is an honorable professor emeritus at the University of Toronto. We were pleased to have awarded Dan Hill posthumously at our festival. Larry at one time lived in Oakville and Hamilton, a period of time before moving to the Maritimes. As my buddy Les McKinnon, an award-winning white 6'5" Scottish historian on Black history, writes, and who resurrected Priceville Cemetery, where the video Speakers for the Dead states, a number of minority groups have been marginalized to the point where they don't even show up in history. We have hundreds of years of very positive influence by early Black pioneers that have shaped the very nature of this community we live in. It's worthy of us to acknowledge that, to be aware of it, to learn from it, and to use it as a measurement for growth. We need to see ourselves in the landscape of history. We have a proud heritage that's a shared heritage, and we have a duty to respect that contribution. Appreciating your roots will give you impetus to contribute through learning, modeling, appreciating, respecting, and engaging with our elders, historians, educators, and mentors towards establishing goals. Do not wish you had gained this knowledge when it's too late to do so. The festival, which is now acknowledged as the longest continuous running emancipation celebration in North America, if not the world, also brought other dignitaries, including Reverend James Lawson, who we just found out 2 months ago is related to our former vice chair and current director of education, Rob Green. Reverend James Lawson was a Martin Luther King Jr.'s protege, who invited him to Memphis for the garbage strike walk. He was beside Martin Luther King at his assassination and convinced Coretta King to continue on with the walks. He says, on the eve of his assassination, Martin Luther King called Lawson the leading theorist and strategist of nonviolence in the world. Mr. Lawson is now a professor at Vanderbilt University, which at one time kicked him out for his activism. This is just a touch of the iceberg and what rich history our communities have. The HBHAS with its Holton Freedom Celebration Festival, Emancipation Art Exhibition, and this year, a HBHAS Gala and Gospel, will honor our freedom and contributors to our rich Black history, culture, and emancipation. As Marcus Garvey says, knowledge is the pathway from slavery to freedom. We are honored to invite any and all high school students in Holton to participate in researching and writing on Holton's Black history, which according to an Oakville historian in 2015 stated to me, I do have to let you know that the collective history of the region favored white pioneer and settler history. And because of this, artifacts within the regional collection relating to Black history are few and far between. This has happened throughout Canada, and we're now at a precipice in recognizing our true collective history. All Holton libraries and museums and Metroland Media will promote the winning narratives and publish a journal of the best. The top 3 finalists will be presented awards from Lawrence Hill when he speaks on being Black in Canada at our Holton Gala. We are hoping to analyze this project to include multi-races and cultures. The end result is that we all gain great knowledge of our Holton and area cultural history and its contributors. We are the fastest growing visible minority region in Canada, growing 176% in 5 years, according to the Canada Census. A few people out of many historical features I'd like to give regards to as models for citizenship, professionalism, culture, self-development, and pioneering prowess include Chief Joseph Brant. He used Blacks he captured during the American Revolution to build Brant House at Burlington Beach and a second home near Brantford. In all, Brant owned about 40 Black slaves, one of which he treated as a daughter and many as friends and home upstarts. It was his slave which initiated the emancipation process, as she was seen crying and shouting by 2 parliamentarians when taken back to slavery in the US. He took her situation to John Graves Simcoe, who initiated the Act Against Slavery in 1793, inspiring the British Emancipation Proclamation Act in 1834, which freed all slaves in most of the Commonwealth. We will be joining forces this year with the Joseph Brant Museum and celebrating emancipation. I met an individual, a Black Academy Award winner, Hubert Davis, at the Men as Career Coaches Conference in Oakville, put on by the Holton Industrial Education Council, Inspiring Informed Career Decisions Conference in 2015. He won this award as a videographer of a documentary called Hardwood about his father, Mel Davis, formerly with the Harlem Globetrotters. Who would have known we had such a regarded individual as Hubert among us? This shows our need for inclusive education and promotion of our history and its contributors and mentors. And then another individual is Isaac Buchanan of Ockmar Mansion in Hamilton. He was a businessman, a political figure in Canada West, previously known as Upper Canada, an international merchant, first president of the Hamilton Club, founder of Hamilton and Toronto Boards of Trade, forerunners to the modern Chambers of Commerce, and founder of the regiment that later became the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, and was appointed the first commanding officer of the 13th Militia Regiment. It is acknowledged that Isaac Buchanan was a champion of emancipation and an enemy of the slave trade. It is documented that on August 1st, 1859, a contingent traveled to Hamilton for an elaborate jubilee at Ockmar Estates in recognition of the 25th anniversary of the passage of the British Emancipation Act, in which 500 Black and white guests attended to take in baseball, picnics, formal dinners, music, and recognizing individuals within the community. This was acknowledged as the largest emancipation celebration in Canada at that time. Another individual worth knowing, John Ellison. He's an internationally recognized performer and recording artist who has performed with James Brown, Diana Ross, Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, Michael Bublé, Carole King, Joss Stone, and Patti LaBelle. In 1967, while traveling with his band Soul Brothers 6, Ellison, who was 26 years old, wrote the lyrics to Some Kind of Wonderful on a paper bag. That song became a worldwide hit. It has sold more than 42 million copies and has been recorded by more than 58 different artists, making it one of the most recorded songs in the history of music. In November 2008, he was nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year and for R&B Soul Recording of the Year. John's daughter had a baby shower at our home in Burlington for my cousin Jamie Green. Another interesting individual who a lot of people don't know about is Wilma Morrison, named Mrs. Black History of Niagara, who was a leading force in restoring the more than 200-year-old Nathaniel Dett Memorial Church in Niagara Falls, also known as the British Methodist Episcopal Church, and one of the oldest surviving Black churches in Ontario, on the Ontario side of the Greater Niagara region. The restoration went on to include a museum of the era's Black history. Wilma was awarded the Order of Canada in 2017, Order of Ontario Award 2014, the Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award, the Niagara Falls Arts and Culture Wall of Fame, the Hamilton Black History Committee Award of Merit and Honorary Doctorate Degree, Brock University. When I was speaking at a convention at one time, an audience member asked why Blacks didn't stand up to the abuse and racism. I stood up and actually I was stuck on the answer, and our elder Wilma stood up and stated, because we were scared. A light bulb went off in that I then realized why I had not been taught my Black history. A tribute musical video was made by the group Blackburn, who play every year at our festival and will be joining us again this year. Their family is the first Black family in Brampton. Rolling Stone magazine called them the best R&B band in Canada in 2015. And their father, cousin Bobby Dean Blackburn, is recognized for bringing R&B into Toronto and is honored on the Mississauga Walk of Fame. Another person you may not have heard of is an individual by the name of Catherine Slaney. Catherine Slaney grew into womanhood unaware of her celebrated Black ancestors. An unanticipated meeting was to change her life. Her great-grandfather was Dr. Anderson Abbott, the first Canadian-born Black to graduate from medical school in Toronto in 1861. In her book, Family Secrets, Catherine Slaney narrates her journey along the trail of her family tree. Her great-grandfather, Anderson Ruffin Abbott's career included participation in the American Civil War, significant roles including coroner of Kent County, Ontario, and surgeon-in-chief. He lived in Toronto and Oakville and was Abraham Lincoln's physician and was with him at his assassination. Lincoln's wife gave him a shawl of Lincoln's as a memorial. Catherine Slaney was born in Toronto in 1951 to white parents. She presently lives in Georgetown, Ontario, and had been a professor at Sheridan College for 25 years. These contributors illustrate the abundance of mentors available for all to learn from. Thus, we must teach our histories, our genealogies, our cultures for optimal gain. All these mentors succeeded by working with diverse and multi-cultures. My first year university mentor was a white United Church minister and Huron College UWO professor who lifted me out of my first trauma of racism experience in grade 13. Without him and many other individuals I sponged knowledge from, I would not have progressed here to be here today. It's appreciative through the introduction of Halton and Area's Black history that there are many stories to be found. It is also appreciative that the best way forward towards equity and mutual respect is collaboration, renewed policies and legislation, education, mentoring, and zero tolerance against racism and abuse. It is also imperative for us to see progressive change, to best work together to achieve these goals, as seen from our past and present mentors. From today forward, let's renew relationships with positive, progressive communication and modeling. The HBHAS welcomes you to support our community's progress towards being a culture capital of Canada, such as our festival did in Owen Sound. We look forward in working with you. Thank you for your participation.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so much, Scott. This has
You're welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, just checking. All right. This I thought I was the only one getting goosebumps until I saw it in the chats. So I was like, oh, my peeps are right there. We felt you. Thank you so much. I mean, that was really, really rich, you know. Just so that I get other people's perspectives, I'd like to call on another board member, Ingrid. Dennis opened with a quote that I will never get over. He said, to be truly great, one has to stand with people, not above them. Tell me, what are your thoughts around this?
So I noticed that somebody asked a similar question. And I think as Black people, we underestimate ourselves. And Dennis's stories just talked about that. The contributions that we have made to Canada and all the lands around us, we need to talk about our histories and not discount them. So thank you very much, Dennis, for sharing those histories, especially this month. It's very appropriate. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. And thank you again, Dennis. Thank you so much. All right, guys. We were due to close at 8. I know that we have a couple of questions that have been answered. And to all our participants, you guys have been amazing. This is the first time that even just at this time, the numbers are going up. People are still joining. You guys deserve a round of applause. Please give yourselves a round of applause wherever you're joining from. You guys are amazing, amazing. I might crave your indulgence. Because we still have Baba who is going to perform. I promised you guys, and I'm going to keep to my promise. So we might just go a little bit above time, even though we really don't want to. I know some of the questions have been answered. My amazing panelists and BMI board members have tried to do justice to some of them, but I'll just bring up 1 or 2 questions. Dennis, you just finished speaking, so I'll start with you. What advice would you give to people who feel like, 1 second, that has been answered. How can someone deal with the social pressures that come from being Black? I know some people have tried to answer this, so we'll just make it as brief as possible. Also, so that all our beautiful participants can go to our blog in a couple of days and read all these transcripts.
Well, I answer it with a quick story. I was speaking at the Etobicoke College of Art, and it's about 200 students, high school. And I told them of my 8 cultures that I come from, and one young lady stood up and said, of all the cultures you come from, which do you lean towards the most? And I said, Dennis Scott, which is exactly what it is. And everybody got up and clapped, which really gave me a first-time appreciation of the fact one has to value themselves first before they look at culture and religion and this and this and that, because that is what's going to take them forward.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. There's nothing to add. Thank you so much. All right. I would give all my panelists, one after the other, an opportunity to just say something about this next question. What is one thing that you wish others knew about Black history that you feel is often underappreciated? I will start with Ms. Wald.
Whom?
Okay, Jennifer, you are on mute. All right.
Well, I think Dennis did a really.
You're muted again.
You're muted.
Yeah. All right.
I think Dennis did an excellent job in telling us about the contribution of the Black community. And it's, he focused mostly on North America. But if we look at the contribution of Black people throughout the world, we have influenced the culture of almost every civilization. And I mean, we are part of the original civilization anyway. So the contribution of Black people is enormous. And it begins with information, it begins with knowledge, and it begins with with us, each of us doing our bit, what we can do to share the pride that we have in who we are. And why we should have pride is because the contribution never stops, it continues.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Dr. Juanita?
I think that being new to Canada and seeing like the amazing rich history of Black heritage is incredible. I don't think that it has been, it's just known. I just don't think so compared to the United States. I think that Canada has a very unique Black history that needs to be celebrated more, like in events like this. But I think it was just so amazing, especially, you know, to hear like such a long history. There is this misinformed idea that there is no Black history in Canada, that it's very recent, and it's not. It's certainly not. Yeah.
Absolutely. Evangeline, do you want to chime in?
I'm here. I think I'm in cloud. I don't even know the cloud 10 or 12.
You're not alone.
I'm telling you, it went from Natasha, then Dr. Canada, the music, the story, this is us. Most times we forget, we just look at those symbols that we see, call them symbols, we call them marks. We don't realize that, you know, it is actually a human being behind that. There is a rich story behind that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then, you know, Jennifer took us, reminding us that we have to remove fear. That was so enriching. And then Dennis, I mean, telling us the story behind who we are, you know, that we are powerful. We should always remember that. My goodness, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Evangeline. So on the program, we're supposed to have Babarinde Williams next, but I want to switch that so that we take our closing remarks. I saw a lot of you dancing, so there's time to dance. So what I'd like to take our closing remarks from Kadim and Ingrid, and then we'll let Babarinde do his thing, and we are going to keep dancing till Mama calls.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, what more can you say? Thank you all for attending and participating. I'm going to end with a quote from one of my favorite ladies, Dr. Jean Augustine. And that quote is, "Canadian history is our history. This is not Black history. It's our history." Thank you all for joining us tonight. Baba, actually, Kadim, do you have anything to say? What do you have to say?
If you don't mind. No, first of all, again, thank you all for being here as people attending, all the amazing panelists and speakers, our amazing MC. This was a powerful event, and I hope I'm not just speaking for myself. And I think we're all going to kind of say the same things here, but at the end of the day, just rise. That's all I have to say. Just keep on rising, just rise. I will rise.
We rise together. Thank you, Kadim.
Thank you, Kadim.
We rise together.
Thank you.
All right, Baba Williams. Now, guys, this is the most interesting part. If you snooze, you will miss. This is the time we all get to, you know, we've done the serious stuff. Now we dance. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna shake my body. I've been sitting for 2 hours, and so, guys, let's do this together. Baba Williams, over to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
More?
Yes.
More.
More.
More, Baba. Give us some drums, man.
It's Elsie the Beat Guy.
I would have been saying it's time to go home, but I realized we are home already.
Thank you so much, everyone. And please don't forget to join us next week, Thursday, at the same time, where we're going to be having important conversation with the police community, the police region in Halton, Peel, Hamilton, Toronto. We are going to be having difficult conversation and also talking about how to rebuild the relationship, the trust, and all of that. But really tonight, thank you. We're so happy you joined us. MC Taiwo, thank you. To all the speakers, my goodness. Thank you, Dr. Kaneda. Thank you.
It was fantastic. Thank you.
It was
An
awesome. Thank
inspiration.
you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Miss Jennifer, I think she's gone. Everybody, my goodness, the board members. Thank you, everybody. I saw Dr. Anya also comment in, and I don't remember seeing Favor, but you all rock. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.